Let's start with the first article of this evening. And I don't know how many of y'all have gotten to check out the new Apple Pro Vision. We're really excited. We haven't ordered our idiot goggles yet.
Yeah.
But this is pretty. These are $3,500.
I can imagine myself walking around the house with those on.
I can imagine quite a few retards walking around with these things on. And who needs climate lockdowns if everyone's trapped in the metaverse? And I don't know if y'all are even aware of these dopey, retarded mega churches that are in the metaverse and are NTFing in the metaverse and all that stuff. But mega churches, they all COVIDed out, and they can't meet because they got to socially distance. And so they're all metaversed up. So never let a good crisis go to waste.
I don't know what the cows would think if the boys walked out in the field with those on.
Yeah, all the FEMA pastors lined up to get their metaverse sanctuary, so you can send in your digital tithe. You can tithe your CBD.
Things. What made America great was her churches, and
that was Alex de Tocqueville, I think.
Yeah, and I think that it was somebody who came and visited America like way back in the day.
Yeah,
and France. He said he set out to see what made her so great, and he said it was her churches. And I think just like a society will rise to the standard of their women.
Yeah. All their women are dressing like men. There you go.
Yeah, and then the same with the churches. As the churches fall, so does our country. And I mean, I don't know if y'all have experienced it, but we can drive down every little country road anywhere, and there's a church that used to be that is no more.
Yep. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And and what we're still hanging on, COVID's put a beating on them. So, but Christ said that he would establish his church and the gates of hell would not prevail against it. So I think it is just a little bit of a shaking, and it's a tribulum to separate the chaff from the wheat. So who needs climate lockdowns? In the metaverse is a scam. I call it virtual reality. Late state globalism's Hail Mary. Real well, there's lots of good stuff on there. So this is brought to you by Bomb Thrower. The title of the article is "Don't Get Lured into the Matrix." So it's late state globalism's Hail Mary play to herd huge swaths plebs into their own private, fully immersed hallucinations where they can live out an inconsequential, dreamlike existence however they want, just so long as it stops them from taking up too much space in the real world.
Wow.
Just like soon he will be shown something that perfectly fulfills his most hidden and cherished desires he has never fulfilled because he went to government school and he's a idiot and he wasted all his productive time in government schools and playing retarded video games. No, it doesn't say that.
Sounds like he's a thing.
Unable to resist the chance to do it at last, he enters by a golden door into eternal captivity.
Eternal, like eternal life?
Yep, dude. Okay, transformerism is transhumanism, and this metaverse stuff is transhumanism.
This is a value for value proposition, y'all. If you do appreciate the information that we provide, please go on over to TheTexasBoys.com and get yourself some honey money while it's in stock. The gallons are going fast.
It's unvaccinated and it is not pasteurized, so it has all the good stuff in it. And also we have our own coffee line, ranging from normal coffees to flavored coffees to CBD coffees and lion's mane coffee and so much more. And also our website and our business does not support any of this garbage. We renounce all of this junk. And guess what? Our company for the forever future will not go woke. So go check out TheTexasBoys.com. It's the best way to support what we do here on the farm.
Okay. And the plant-based soy kibble stuff goes right into we'll plug you into your metaverse helmet and we're going to feed you Brondo. You know what I mean? Apple's announcement at WWDC, Save the Vision Pro for last. It's expected to roll out in 2024 and is being heralded as the most significant revolution in technology interface since the smartphone. The Vision Pro is not a VR headset per se. It's a spatial computing interface for augmented reality. Instead of immersing you 100% in a digital construct, it overlays objects, icons, and XUs from the computing world and the internet into your visual field of the physical world you occupy.
Who has time for this? I'm sorry. Like, I barely had time to get a shower, y'all. My hair is still wet. I really don't have time to do the things that I'm supposed to do.
Dummies are going to
in a
wake
day.
up, well, not wake up. Dummies are going to keep this on their head. They're going to do all their work and their
When?
tasks. They're never going to take this thing off. There are so many people, especially people that live in a concrete jungle, that work in a cubicle all day and they go home and they watch Netflix or
Wow.
they video game out all night. They're going to put this thing on and never take it off. I mean, and it's
Scary.
there's
very sad.
there's 1,000 dystopian
Well, I mean,
sci-fi
how
movies
do you
about it.
raise children like that? How do you, if you have adults walking around in a non-reality, like I'm too busy in real reality to live in a non-reality.
Right. And, see, it says this isn't entirely new. We had Google Glass, that was augmented reality. You had Bookface, you had the Oculus Rift thing, right? And, they failed. Well, if they were such failures, Google wouldn't have Vision Pro this thing, and this thing is $3,500, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
And Marcus Brownlee's already pimping it, and, he had Dr. Fauci on, told you all about the droplets. Make sure you get your shot. So, Marcus Brownlee knows,
Well, the other thing is, I'm saying I don't have time, but, there's this big trend with young people, and we were talking about it just last night, of these young people that are 20 somethings, 30 somethings that are like making these vows to never get married and never have children. And they come out of these universities and they are totally brainwashed that, overpopulation and the green agenda, and they think they're saving the planet. So they will have lots of time to walk around with these,
especially when they're getting paid UBI and they're not working at all. They're going to need something to do.
Yeah. Well,
and when
if you're just lonely,
well,
I mean, you don't have a spouse or children.
Right. And you're stuck in a 15-minute city and there's literally no place to go, and you're charging your EV battery.
Right.
So you couldn't go anywhere if you wanted to because you have no power in your battery.
Yeah.
Especially if you're currently under a brownout while you're trying to charge your EV vehicle. So, this is a super setup, and this is masses. This is bread and circuses.
Distractions.
Yep.
Since I wrote that piece, there has been more of a drumbeat around personal carbon footprints, and that just came out. This week. Climate lockdowns are starting, right? So if there's not a planned scam demorenic thing, right? Well, it's going to be, we noticed when we were locked down for the scamdemic that pollution lessened, less people driving. So we just really need to start doing that, locking people in their homes for 6 months out of the year. It's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. And it'll be a virtue signal.
Yeah.
It will.
The wholly concocted FUD around Bitcoin mining. Oh, yeah, that was another one. Yeah, Bitcoin mining is terrible. It uses too much power. People fail to see that for what it is. A license cost Trojan horse that, if accepted, will legitimize the idea that external authorities, technocrats, have the moral authority to decide how everybody else gets to use their own energy. In addition to the Apple Vision Pro announcement last month, the FDA approved Elon Musk Neuralink. Yay! The arbiter of free speech. You're going to plug Twitter into your brain with the Twitter app, with the everything app. That's just like the China social score app thing. But it's going to be great. Billing itself as a brain-computer interface, is fully implantable, cosmetically invisible, and designed to let you control a computer or mobile device anywhere you go. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome, y'all. Can't wait. Well, I can wait. I can definitely wait for eternity. I will be waiting forever.
We're still waiting for high-speed internet.
And I will say, yeah, hey, just let me get some fiber optic. That's good enough. I just want a fiber optic line that runs to my house. It's not going to run into my brain.
No, and we're going to hardwire it in. So that way
we'll Cat 5 it into
bombed.
the computer, not into my brain. All right.
No, that's okay.
Norlink is initially targeting people who have physical impediments.
Oh boy.
To interacting with the world at large. That's how that's going to make the poor cripple guy walk. It's the emotional thing. Like, even though what's his face, Halifites, the NASA guy has already bragging about they have 150 or 250,000 people with brain chip implants.
They'll probably like poster child, like people that have these horrible disabilities, and they're able to do all these things now.
Yeah, if Michael J. Fox were still alive, it would take away his Parkinson's.
Yeah, that's what they'll be, the poster child. But really, I think that, the guinea pigs, right? That's the people that are, disabled, and I'm sure low income people. That's the people that they prey on,
every time. But after that, when brain implants enter the mainstream, we should expect to see some suboptimal outcomes. They've already had these people with these retinal implants, right? And then these companies have went out of business, right? So there's no systems upgrade. So people that have literally been able, they using some digital gizmo implanted in their retina, they've been able to see. Well, these companies went bankrupt. And oh, sorry. There's no update, and whoop, and you brown out and you can't see anymore. Unreal. The metaverse, augmented reality, UBI, and CBDCs are all Soma. Soma is a substance featured in Aldous Huxley's dystopian novel, Brave New World, published back in 1932. It's a powerful government-issued drug used to control the population, offering a pleasant, hallucinogenic escape from reality without any negative physical side effects, thereby keeping society docile and content. Yeah, that's bread and circuses. When Rome was burning, it was bread and circuses. Yep. For example, technocrats believe that UBI will emaciate an incredibly unemployable rabble from the rat race of having to earn a living, empowering them to spend their time doing yoga, writing poetry, generally self-actualizing. Like, the longer I stare at my navel, I realize I'm really a woman.
Oh,
yeah, for real.
And this is going to be with the unemployable crowd?
Well, it's going to be with all the people that jobs are replaced by robotic automation.
Right, which is going to be a lot of
people. They're saying between AI and robotic automation, it's going to replace a minimum of 50% of the current employed workforce, which there's some, if you're in the upper 35% of income earners, I truly believe your type of job is safe. But if you're in a general type of manufacturing or even general data programming stuff, you're going to be replaced by AI or you're going to be replaced by robots. That's what China's doing. Isn't it great? Now that they've raised all these people out of poverty and they've helped them build all these widgets, now they're going to replace them all with robots. That's a nice vision. But what probably happens instead is that it creates legions of dependent, subservient couch potatoes binging on cheesies, dope, and porn. And that is, the porn epidemic for men and women in America is unreal. The statistics are unbelievable.
Well, sure. We live in an over-sexualized culture. Sex is
and then
pushed.
Access to the porn is just so instantaneous.
Yes, of course.
So they're over-sexualized. They pervert little kids. They dress them raunchy from like right out of the cradle.
Yes.
And then they take them to all these stinking things.
Well, you don't have to just take them to government school.
Yeah.
And, or just have them around other children that have been exposed to
or have them walk around in the month of June outside in a moderately densely populated area.
It's very...
And all the same thing. You know what I mean? In the same vein, ubiquitous brain implants probably won't give rise to a generation of super literate, hyper informed, augmented IQ overachievers as much as it will create an entirely new form of couch potato who completely end run the myriad stimuli that get them their dopamine hits and just tap straight into the neurological response. The most dangerous form of electronic drug is direct stimulation of the pleasure sensor of the brain. This is called wireheading. And when you think about, you have a circuit board in your brain and you think about the concoctions that meth heads have already stirred up in their bathroom, can you imagine what kind of digital concoctions that they're going to wire up for Neuralink? And it's going to be a whole new level of electronic doping. Wireheading is much like any other electronic implant. Electrodes in the brain connected to the pleasure center are hooked into a jack at the base of the skull. A small transformer plugged into normal house wiring provides a trickle of current necessary to stimulate the pleasure center. While a wirehead is hooked in, he becomes impervious to everything and will forego food, water, or anything else.
Wow.
We are being conditioned to accept that we can have all our needs met in a virtual world. Whereas the Ethereum kitties like to think they can invent their own rules of physics. So I'm not too much of a tech geek, so I didn't get that. But there's a hyperlink there. If you really, to summarize, this is a more philosophical way. Proof of work is based on the laws of physics. So you have to work with the world as it is. You have to work with electricity as it is, hardware as it is, what computers are. Whereas because, so this is a Bitcoin thing. Whereas because proof of stake is virtualized in this way, it's really cool. You get to create a stimulated universe that has its own laws of physics. And that just gives us protocol developers a lot more freedom to optimize the system to give us all of the security properties that we want. If we want the system to offer a certain security guarantee, that means we can modify the system in a way that lets us achieve it. As I pointed out in When Whiteboard Economics Collide with Reality, Alec Buterin is making our point for us without realizing he's making our point for us. He is expressing the ultimate technocratic fantasy, the ability for managerial experts from on high to order reality according to their own whims and priorities, where models can be created on whiteboards and reality is expected to conform to these models. It never does. Yet we live in a world where people who point out that the models are flawed are demonized, while those who bear no consequences for being wrong double down and are awarded Nobel Prizes. This is absolutely the technocracy. If enough of the plebs, the rabble, and the useless eaters can be convinced to accept this virtual reality as genuine, or at least a reasonable facsimile of life, possibly even preferable to many, then a lot of big macro problems get solved. And you want to know what's fascinating? So there was this trilogy, I think it was at least 3 or 4, it might be 5 movies now, right? Called The Matrix, right? And The Matrix was all about this metaverse and a program or aliens, for lack of a better term, were using human beings as robots, and they trapped them inside this little pod. They plugged a Neuralink thing in the back of their skull. They lived inside this gooey pod, right? And the energy, and in their mind, they were living this life, right, inside the Matrix. Where, well, externally, they were creating power. So they were human batteries. Okay, that's the Matrix. Well, the two brothers that dreamed up this whole thing, I don't know if anybody or everybody knows this, but the two brothers, both of them, are now women.
Whoa.
Pretty ironic, huh?
Whoa.
Pretty ironic. The guys that warned us way before the whole Transformer thing, before the whole Transformer thing, the two guys that spilled the beans on the Matrix, and red pill, blue pill. I mean, there's so many modern mythology that we, vernacular or colloquialisms that we take from the Matrix that we talk about. Are you red pilled and all this stuff, right? The two dudes that wrote this whole yarn are both supposedly women. That is some wild stuff, y'all. That's some syrupy thick irony. And that's That is predictive programming. So for starters, us commoners won't be permitted really to continue despoiling the real world. And while the rest of us are in virtual realities, living on UBI, delivered by CBDCs, being fed plant-based sludge intravenously, the real world will be deftly managed by expert technocrats and super wealthy elites whose private jets, multiple residences, and super yachts are somehow exempt from the wanton environment destruction the rest of us would cause with our single-use plastic straws, pet dogs, and meat consumption. The pretext for all of this is a curious faith in scientism as opposed to the scientific method. Being carpet bombed across the MSM and big tech platforms, that is tantamount to brainwashing. It is distinctly Malthusian. It is based on principles that are fundamentally Marxist. It's driven by an elitist sense of entitlement and misanthropy. It provides the intellectual grounding for the weapon-inspired fourth industrial revolution framework, which utterly failed in its first big test, the COVID's pandemic, wherein every core tenet turned out to be wrong and every policy response failed. Oh, quick side note. So supposedly the scamdemic is over, right? And supposedly social distancing was beat, and supposedly masks did nothing because Fauci said masks don't do anything. And then he said, well, they do something. You need to wear 2 masks, and then you need to wear 3 masks, right? But then, oh yeah, but no, they don't do anything, right? Well, the White House just sent out guidance mandating face masks and social distancing.
When was this?
This was on Monday.
Really?
On Monday, the White House will host NCAA men's and women's national championship sports ball. So for all those bread and circus folks, they're going to have these sports ball people at the District of Criminals at the White House with the puppet in chief that can barely speak a sentence.
Unvaccinated.
Yeah, and he's going to like trip and fall on them and say thank you. And hopefully, you know, he can keep his britches clean and all. Okay, so prior to the event, the White House sent out an email invitation to members of Congress requesting their attendance at the event and some additional logistical information. And they included some helpful guidance about specific protocols. Among them, all unvaccinated guests were to wear masks and to practice social distancing. So check that out.
Wow.
So even though the commander-in-chief has already declared, I think it was like on May 10th or 11th, that the scamdemic was over. But for now, for some reason, if you play the sports ball and you want to be recognized,
they don't want you to forget it. You know, it's a conditioning thing. So they got to bring it back up a little, you know, every once in a while, they got to
and you're in the District of Criminals, y'all.
Yeah.
So.
And it's funny, this Malthusian and fundamentally Marxist and entitlement. I mean, this is what they push at the colleges and the universities.
Exclusively.
And I mean, I can just say from my experience, from your experience, from our brothers and sisters, all of them, their experience. And, you know, I have brothers that bought it hook, line, and sinker, you know, and a stepbrother who went to India and came back and told us how great India was and how America should be like India. And the other went to Cambodia and came back and told us all about Cambodia and how it was just so much better there. And they have it all figured out. And he literally went through, and this is going back like 20 years, y'all. So this is a long time ago, and he was in college and he came back and he said, and there's going to be basically like these elite type people, and then everybody else will be like the discarded. And he told his mother, my stepmother, that basically people like us, like me and my husband, because we were Christians and the way that we were raising our children, like that was going to be like, we were going to be in the discarded group, like, because, you know, there's just no place for people like that. And
There's definitely no place for Christians.
yeah, so that was at least 20 years ago, y'all. And she was shocked. She was just like, I am so discouraged that he came out of college. He was finished college.
How
He
dare
went
you.
on, did his doctorate degree, in Philadelphia or
Yeah,
something.
somewhere.
But totally brainwashed, totally believes class system,
What's the big
believes that Christians should just be discarded.
the big engineer Philly?
Believe that like any type of Christianity that we would be teaching our children would be child abuse. This is what he learned, and he was going for like film and what was like video, like technology type stuff. Yeah, the other brother was going for chemistry, and he did his doctorate.
Drexel. That's right.
Yeah.
Drexel.
But so it doesn't have to be that they're just going into like, social things or like psychology to, this was pushed 20 some years ago. I'm sure these kids are going to believe it. Like it's just sad. It's just really sad.
Yeah.
But
undaunted, this thin scab of elites who sit atop the global cap table have already pivoted to rhetoric around a group of unfalsifiable logical fallacies collectively branded as the climate crisis, and are now trying to make the case that these same experts and technocrats who botched the pandemic response across the board should get to decide how much time and space the rest of us get to take up in the real world. The carbon, that's strange. This article says the carbon they want to reduce is you. Because I think we have a t-shirt and maybe even a hat that says something like that.
Yeah.
But you can get it to texasboys.com.
Yeah. So they're not going to stop
I think
with
it
the cows?
says we are the CO2.
They're not going to just stop with rounding up all the cows?
Nope. No, the cows are first. They'll kill them first. And then they're coming for the people. It's people. We're already seeing the promulgation from the corporate media that combating climate change is too important to be left up to personal choice. But wait a minute. But women, right, have personal choice to like murder their babies because it's their body and it's their choice, right? But now this isn't personal choice.
Didn't it say something about this in the Bible that like the thought of man would only be evil continually?
Yeah, and how that they are deceiving and being deceived, and like they can't make sense of anything, and they're like totally insane lunatics.
So this is all really marching in the exact way that it's supposed to go.
Which means somebody else is going to have to decide for all of us how much energy we get to use and CO2 we get to emit. It's called the ultra low carbon lifestyle. And it looks like we'll all have the rest of us, not them, will have to ratchet down our lifestyles by half before 2040 and then half again by 2050. That's a 75% reduction in living standard within the next 25 years.
Yeah.
The UK fires absolute zero paper, makes unambiguous references to metering, and then attenuating individuals' fair share of energy and carbon emissions.
Wow, there's so many terms.
Yeah, they're just never, it's always going to be more and more of these idiot like phraseologies and newspeak.
Yeah.
And it'll perpetually change and change and change. With France already emitting short-haul flights. Wow. With France eliminating short-haul flights, the UK talking about ending air travel for plebs by 2050. Various localities banning internal combustion engines after 2030. We see incremental boil the frog motion converging on strategic goals that have been laid out, such as the 15-minute city concept. It's hard to ignore where it's going. Here's all your cool apps, right? These are going to tell you if you can leave your house. Who needs climate lockdowns? It's everybody's in the metaverse. So, if they're going to lock us in our house, We're going to need, you know, a pair of meta goggles that are solar charged, of course, that we can charge with a small solar panel. It's so unreal, y'all. The emerging matrix does provide a perfect solution to solve the impending crisis, which I've said from the beginning of the Bitcoin Capitalist letter actually turns out to be the collapse of a debt supercycle and the end of the fiat money era, rather than anything to do with climate.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. You know, we were just talking about this, was either in our last live stream or 2 live streams ago, with the ESG and the DEI. This is all about collapsing fiat and then reinflating with CBDC, and then when you're in complete control of that monicum of exchange, then they got you.
Yeah, I think that I was watching, I actually shared it with you today. Yanasa, I'm not sure. It's Yanasa TV. I don't know what it's called.
Oh, Yanasa. Yeah.
Yeah, they're on YouTube. And
they're
if you,
awesome folks.
You haven't checked out
Buffalo documentary people.
Yes, if you haven't checked out Yanasa, it starts with a Y, channel on YouTube. You should really
watch that
check
video
them
you
out.
shared with me.
And he was talking about disengaging. I can't remember the name of the video, but it was like how to disconnect from the system. And he gave him and his wife's whole story of how it was just the hand of God, but how the Lord used tragedy to actually pull them out of the system, and how they lost everything. And how thankful he is to not be as much a part of the system today, and just how better of a life he has. And I just see that so much as all of this, you know, Satan's just doing his thing with his people, and he's going to have people in derision and delusion, and that's fine. This is part of the plan, right? But God's got the big plan, and we do win. And when he's ready, he's going to be ready, and it's going to be over in a twinkle of an eye. So
hallelujah.
This should not bring fear to us. This should only sober us. And, you know, it's just like worth a quick glimpse at these things. I think, especially as women, it can be consuming, but I wouldn't be consumed with it. I would just quickly glance at it and then just get back to taking care of the things that are right in front of me and busy, and, you know, the things in my house with my children and my husband, and plan, just like I said, the other video, you know, just every little step that you can to just pull away from the system.
I consume most of this stuff because I want to be aware of how, as the patriarch and as the father and as the leader and as the tip of the spear, I want to be aware of what's going on so that I know which way that we need to guide the ship